Oh my god, somebody else made it. Don't worry, you and I are gonna get out of here.
There are not enough dinosaur horror games, so when one comes out, what happens? Well, people get excited about it, to a point where a low-budget indie game like this can secure its moment of fame. I mean, to be honest, a dinosaur game series called Fossil Fuel definitely deserves a look. Because dinosaur horror as a concept is a genuinely good one, and the reason why dinosaurs work so well as a scary thing in most games is quite literally primal. Yeah, zombies and creepy looking creatures are scary, horrific even to imagine, but there's something about a dinosaur, a sharp-toothed animal, that if you're not from Florida, triggers a different kind of fear. When an encounter or jump scare presents itself, what hits you is less so the horror of trying to comprehend the thing in front of you, but more so the sudden situation of familiar panic you have as prey. You don't return to Monkey, you return to prehistoric shrew with a gun. This is Fossil Fuel 1 and this is Fossil Fuel 2. Both have their own DLC and both take place at the Sierra Research Facility, located far away from any government, deep underground on one of the Alaskan islands. Don't know which one, but there are snowballs. Snowballs that show up on infrared. If it wasn't already heavily implied, the Sierra Research Facility is a place where the main goal is to bring back prehistoric life. And that includes more than just dinosaurs, as well as some under-the-table gene splicing. Now, of course, there is a bit of lore to these games, but this isn't a lore video, and to be honest with you, it doesn't go that deep. But to set things up, Fossil Fuel 1, you play as a new game warden on your first day at work, replacing the previous warden who definitely resigned. And after being invited to a meeting by, I kid you not, Elon Musk.
It is I, Elon Musk.
Everything goes to hell, and you need to escape. In Fossil Fuel 2, you'll explore the now abandoned facility years later as a mercenary on a mission to find lost data, all while struggling to survive against a rogue AI and many more things to worry about. Oh, and you can also play as a raptor in this one. That's an instant 10 out of 10 for me, and we've not even heard the Robo-Rex rap. DangerousBob Studio is the developer behind these games, and although this video is a walkthrough analysis of the Fossil Fuel series, I have also played their other games and will be making references to them, especially with Fossil Fuel 1, and they are at least worth a mention. Like for example, Krampus Kills, a game where you play as a kid who can zero recoil a quad shotgun against funny looking elves, take on hordes of spooky skeletons with an SMG you found on a police car outside your house, and come up against definitely reindeer. All in the pursuit of getting your name off the naughty list and defeating Krampus with the power of Christ. The game comes with a hide and seek mode, as well as a horde mode, and multiple choice paths to take, so there is some replayability here. Then there's the unironically better than Redfall open world vampire survival called Nightgate, that unfortunately you can't buy anymore because it was removed from Steam by the dev to, I guess, do better. It got mixed reviews and it was quite a short experience, but still kind of sad to see it go because vampires had specific ways to kill them. There was actually a bit of creativity to that. You can even shoot the store clerks, which I found kind of funny. Every obstacle or challenge was unique. There were some optional places to explore and things to do. Even fishing. You could just fish in this game if you wanted to. And I think the coolest thing was this demon boomerang that you can use to slice through crowds. It was genuinely fun for what it was, and the main bad guy sounds kind of funny.
Welcome to the outside world. Let me introduce myself. I am Grendel. I'll be waiting for you.
There were also a couple games released before Fossil Fuel, where you need to avoid a werebear called Farberto, who's slightly broken, weirdly into torture equipment, has Indiana traps set up around his cave, and for a game called Foglight, where fog is a part of the brand, it's kind of funny that you can turn it off by reducing the graphics. Not to mention that they also released a multiplayer game of this that is very rough around the edges, but to be fair, is funny to play with friends, especially knowing that you can throw piss bottles at each other or just get flung across the map. Whoa! Oh my god, man! Maybe I'll revisit these at a later date, but for now, sit back and relax for some dinosaurs. Fossil Fuel, the game, released out of early access on the 21st of August 2021. In early access, it began with the ambition to become a 6 to 10 hour long game with an open world that you can explore, a massive arsenal of weapons, and a huge library of enemies. They didn't quite achieve that. Fair enough, it's an early access story as old as time, but I've got a bit of a bone to pick with this game. To my surprise, it once had a co-op multiplayer horde mode. Unfortunately though, the game wasn't that popular, so eventually that game mode was removed in October 2023. But did they switch to a client-based model? No. Did the price change for less content? No. For $20, it's a 2, maybe 3 hour long experience with multiple choice considered, and maybe just about 4 if you got the $5 Raptor Isolation DLC that also has a VR version for double the price. Personally, I wouldn't really say it's worth that much, probably better on a sale, but minus all of that, with a pinch of salt, I was still impressed with what they were trying to achieve with the resources they had.
We're busted up pretty bad here. We're hunkering down till help arrives.
I mean, you've got a tank segment, a sniper segment, stealth segment, every level genuinely felt unique, there's an actual T-Rex, not only that, a Homo erectus Rex, I don't know what it is, but that's funny as hell, and the combat, as basic as it is, has 2 of my most favourite things, ragdoll physics and unintentional jump scares. This was just a little extra bit to get that gun. Nice. Oh! You know, man, what? Where do they come from? As you'll see, the ingredients are there, but applied in sometimes strange ways, and as we go through it, Fossil Fuel 1 will tell a tale of potential while struggling with an identity crisis. Anyway, with all that being said, it's the first encounters where the dinosaur horror element hits the hardest. And what will become very apparent with this dev is that they know how to do jump scares right. There are no PNGs here. Dinosaurs are the sudden situation of familiar panic they need to be. And even on a second playthrough, knowing what to expect, said panic was reliably triggered. Oh my god, that freaked the shit out of me. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know it was going to be that fast. The very first dinosaur encounter, I believe, was done pretty well. Because when you start your first day, go through some NPC dialogue, and get an achievement for harassing a woman.
Hey, do I look like I got time to talk all day? I just told you I'm busy.
An explosion occurs shortly after entering the meeting room.
What's up? What's going on?
And once you come to your senses, the first place you'll visit is the kitchen. In here is a yellow keycard that you'll pick up, and while trying to go back to figure out where to use it, it becomes very apparent with this cutscene that you need to hide quick. Thankfully, one of your colleagues is there to distract the beast, and with the yellow card in hand, you can now access the next area. Here is where you'll find an office that has a locked cabinet inside, and according to this note, heavy smoker Joe Rayman did the right thing within context and brought a gun to work. Said gun is in the cabinet, and you need to find some bolt cutters fast because little did you know that you're on a timer. Fortunately, the bolt cutters were just in the next room, and with the cabinet open, you now have your hands on the first gun. I killed it. No, I didn't. It's dead. Oh. And there you go. You killed your first raptor. By the way, fun fact, that was actually my second attempt because on my first attempt, it got stuck in the door. So it was a bit anticlimactic to say the least. Now, the rest of this level is pretty short-lived because after the yellow key, you need to find the blue key to open this door here so that you can go into the caves. Finding the blue key card itself is easy enough, as after watching some poor guy get ganked out of bounds, you'll find another office. In this office are some supplies, the key itself behind a photo, and this mysterious little box that we'll come back to later. One thing to note is that saving in this game is infinite and done via laptops that, to be honest, aren't too far few between. Another thing to note is that with the blue key card, you'll enter this room, and this is where the toilet raptor jump scare is. Just gonna say that was probably one of the scummiest jump scares in this game, but I felt like something was gonna happen either way. Also, fun fact, for some reason he was in there with a syringe. I ain't saying anything, I'm just putting out the facts. The caves is a short-lived but interesting endeavor. It's where you fight a giant snake boss that's honestly way too easy even if you do get bit and poisoned. Well, that was it.
kind of, whoa.
The main goal here is to essentially traverse the paddocks full of raptors, a couple friendly stegosauri, I don't know, bugs, and this one poisonous frog that basically does nothing unless you get too close. And this is where you'll also find 2 really good weapons as well as a very useful item. Next to this guy, you can find a pump-action shotgun. It looks normal, fires normal, kills normal, but there is something a bit odd about the reload, because to reload to full, it only takes 1 shell. It's kind of weird, and it was also weird to see the same gun with the same problem in both Nightgate and Krampus Kills. Either way, it's still a good gun. What's kind of funny though is that after picking up this shotgun, you'll almost immediately make it redundant if you're curious enough. To get through this door to the first paddock, you need to find a code. A code that is conveniently found next to the door in this guy's notes. So getting into the first paddock is pretty easy stuff. But now you've got a choice. Sneak past the scary dinos, or just kill them. Kill them all. Every single one, because if you clear this room, then you can freely walk over to the far corner, and hey look, the exact same gun, but silenced. This one reloads the same, it shoots the same, and kills about the same, but of course, it's silenced. It's kind of insane to think how close these 2 weapons are together. I mean, the silenced shotgun literally is just a better upgrade. But to be fair, with that being said, I did miss this on my first run. The sort of challenge you're given before the snake fight is that you need to unlock another door with another code. But to find the code, there are 2 paths to take. One is across some platforms that I won't mock for being easy because I did miss a jump and that resulted in more bugs. But at the end is some money, an antidote that's basically only useful for this level, and 1/2 of the code. Going down the other path, you'll effortlessly find the other half in a room with the only chilled dinosaurs in the game. Now this bit is made slightly harder on hard mode with an additional raptor, but that's about it. With the full code in hand, you can now unlock the door, enter the boss arena, and get some extra loot whilst doing so. Now, as much as I did spoil the boss fight, I do appreciate that this one had some kind of introduction. There was an intro cutscene, and it's not like I didn't fear the guy. If I wasn't running around in circles, I would have no chance. But still, I wouldn't say it's the most interesting fight. It's basically just a big bullet sponge. What is a bit more interesting, however, is what's upstairs. What I really like about this dev is not just the fact that you can kill the store clerk in most games where there is one, but it's also the fact that they try to do some kind of Metroidvania level design, because after the caves, we're now technically back to level 1, but this time on the other side of a fire that we couldn't pass. The objective here is simple. Turn on the power to activate all systems, including sprinklers, go to the security room, reactivate the lift, and go up to the next level. But of course, it's not that simple. By turning on the power, you summon both the Homo erectus rex and 2 raptors. Now, I did struggle with this guy at first. He is a massive bullet sponge. But then again, little did I know in my first run, you can easily cheese this boss, because if you run back to the start of the level, past the kitchen, you'll find some containers, and even though he can smash through some walls, he doesn't really seem to do too much about the containers. So yeah, you can just stand there, shoot him, he won't do anything, and hey look, there's a dead Homo erectus rex on the floor. Well done. Now, I didn't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure you can just run to the lift without even killing this guy. But it's very important that you do, because after you've cleared all the threats, you can now explore the area. In one of the rooms, you'll find a key that can be used to unlock the little box that we saw before. Inside is the Cutlass Revolver. It's not too great against big enemies, but it has high stopping power, which is kind of fun to use on humans.
What the fuck just happened?
Additionally, with the power on, there is the Armory, a place you couldn't previously access before, but is well worth the visit. Because in here are some cool things, like body armor, which is pretty straightforward. All it means is that you can take more hits. There's the blaster, a fast-firing SMG that shoots 9mm rounds, which is the same ammo that the first pistol you find uses. So in a nutshell, this is basically an upgrade. But in here, there are also explosives. More specifically, 1 grenade and some explosive powder. In this game, there are 3 types of explosives, and each one is quite overpowered. Explosive powder is simply used to combine with explosives in your inventory to increase the amount you have. As you've already seen, grenades do what grenades do, and very well. In fact, they're so powerful that you can basically rip the health bar in most boss fights. Later on, you'll find proximity mines, which are a bit more situational, but equally as powerful. There's also the remote explosive, which is more of a tool to blow up certain walls, but is also very effective against pretty much any enemy. Now, I mentioned combining stuff, and that is a possibility in this game. You can combine stacks of ammo to make more space, you can combine syringes with health vials to heal yourself, or antidotes to get rid of the poison. And the same inventory system with the same annoying issue is present within this, Krampus Kills, and Nightgate. The powerful item I mentioned in the caves was the Humble Backpack. Each one increases your inventory by 4 slots, and you can purchase one for $800 at any store. The annoying issue is that stackable items don't automatically stack when you pick them up. This, along with an overly generous amount of supplies scattered throughout the game, makes for a lot of inventory management. And because so much random stuff happens, you don't know how much you need to hoard just in case. But you know what? If you did somehow run out of ammo, there's always the axe. The axe is the only melee weapon in this game, and you'll find it at the end of the level just before you go up the lift. But I've got to be completely honest here, I actually forgot that I even had it. So there is basically no gameplay of me using this on anything, besides one guy. And it is pretty good. I've got to be honest, this is pretty much the last horror-like level before I start talking about tanks and bulls. Because you see, while escaping via the lift, it gets jammed, and now we're stuck in the vents with a couple bugs to deal with. As you progress, it's kind of funny to see that next to this guy who didn't quite make it, there's this note questioning the idea of bringing prehistoric bugs back into existence. I'm glad they had a little bit of hindsight, but you won't truly know to what extent they've done this until you walk into this large room, where nothing happens. Yet. I mean, surely nothing's gonna go wrong when I unjam this lift and go back. This is the Spider Queen, and it's kind of weird saying that because I fought the Spider Queen before. Not gonna lie, she's changed a bit by comparison. But this one, unfortunately, is just another bullet sponge. You shoot it, maybe some small ones might come at you, but that's about it. What is pretty cool about this fight is that after killing it the first time, you'll encounter it a second time. I thought this was a different bug at first. It wasn't, it was the same one, and it was meant to be some sort of like phase 2, but for a phase 2 there was nothing new, and it was just the same thing again. But I did notice these red canisters, and it turns out that this game does have environmental hazards. And hey, look at that, there's also some environmental damage too. Speaking of environmental hazards, I didn't know on my first run that there were electrical panels that you can shoot that, well, as you can see, cause electricity to come out of them. I don't know why it's green, but it's pretty cool. But that's for later, when we go down this vent, go back to where we started, and take the lift to the next level. Immediately after exiting the lift, you'll hear a Lieutenant Finley on the comms alerting everyone that a foreign force has infiltrated the facility. And further down the hallway, you'll encounter him on a monitor, where he orders you to go to the base power plant.
Find your way to the base power plant. From there you can restart the entire system. Once online, I can get a message to the mainland. Get it done, son. Out.
It looks very different here. It's lit up and polished, and to be honest, the horror element kind of left the room. Although what I will say is that I do appreciate that they introduced this new giant frog enemy with a Resident Evil 2 remake style silhouette. Whether intentional or not, it's kind of funny. Now, before encountering this foreign force, you need to find a switch to open a locked door that just so happens to be where the giant frog was sitting. Flipping the switch spawns in another frog that isn't really much of a threat. In fact, these are the only 2 enemies here, and besides licking you if you get too close, they don't do too much. However, you may notice that I'm using a new weapon, the silenced SMG. And obtaining this weapon is probably the most comedically short way I've ever unlocked any kind of secret weapon. Because you see, on my first run, I was just interacting with things, and then I found this drawer that looked like it could be opened with a key. The issue here was that I needed to find the key. Was this key locked behind some kind of puzzle? Was it hiding somewhere in the corner? Did one of the frogs eat it and I had to use the axe to open it up? No. The key was right behind me. It was right behind this set of drawers on the desk right there. And there you go. That's where you get the SMG silenced, which is actually a better alternative to the blaster. It also shoots 9mm rounds, but similar to the blaster, the reload animation didn't quite get the care it needed. Anyway, with the door now open, it's time to meet the Russians. And according to this note, they're on a mission with the following orders. 1. Get 2 of each dinosaur. 2. Execute with extreme prejudice. 3. Locate the fossil fuel hard drives. And 4. Meet with officers every 20 minutes. I like how none of this is translated in game, but your guy can kind of figure out that these are military orders, and that fossil fuel. This is also where you'll find the Soviet 74. This will be the first automatic rifle you'll find, and previous to this, you would have probably found some ammo for it anyway, so it's pretty good to use even though it's not silenced. This gun is a bit short-lived, however, because it won't be too long till you find the Silent Knight, a silent rifle. In a pretty similar fashion to a lot of the guns you find, it's just a better upgrade. And weirdly enough, after you find this gun, you'll find the assault rifle, which is, to be honest, you really don't need it at this point. Human enemies, as you've already seen, aren't really much of a threat, but this section right here is technically considered to be a stealth section, even though getting through it without stealth is very easy. The challenge here is that you need to avoid CCTV cameras that will obviously alert your position. And of course, to do so, you need to sneak about, but you can also take them out with a silenced weapon if you want. With this being a stealth section, you can also perform stealth kills, but I wouldn't blame you for not knowing that because the text on screen telling you that you can appears very briefly, and you can't activate a stealth kill while crouched. I messed around in this bit for a while on my second run because it was genuinely so short-lived, but kind of fun. You'll also find a couple new things here too, like night vision goggles that honestly you won't need much even when they turn off the lights for a bit. And also the silenced pistol. It is the same as the first gun you find, but just upgraded. And it's becoming really clear now that maybe the dev made too many guns for this game and didn't really know where to place them, because you turn one corner, find a new gun, turn the other, and find a new one straight away, and in terms of balancing, it really just comes down to what you think is the most fun, which sounds cool, but minus some experimental guns later, they all pretty much do the same thing, and most guns seem to be silenced at this point. Picture this, you're walking down a hallway and oh no, I appear to have fallen through the floor and that thing looks scary even though I can shoot it in the cutscene. This, by the sheer size of it, just the look of it, should have been a threatening situation to catch you off guard. But it just feels like I've stumbled into one of the main quests after completing all of the side quests, without actually completing any side quests. In fact, the main problem with this game isn't even so much the short-lived nature of some sections, the low-budget voice acting, or the simplicity of boss fights. It's the complete lack of balance caused by abundance. The goal of most survival games is to get to a point where you can thrive, but a good survival horror keeps you holding on for survival by providing just enough resources to keep you alive. Because of such abundance, the Allosaurus fight was ridiculously easy. I mean, you've already seen some clips of it. With grenades, it is way too fast. And even without grenades, you can still get through it pretty quick with just how slow it moves. In my second run, I noticed that they had some environmental hazards, which is pretty cool, but still just completely useless. Clearly they intended you to run around for a little bit, but by this point you're so stacked with guns and ammo that it just doesn't make sense, besides, I guess, more style points.
The group of survivors not far from you. Hard to
After the Allosaurus, you'll meet up with the boys on an escape mission that lasts about 2 seconds. This is where you'll find the assault rifle and the new H2 flame unit, a powerful flamethrower that's much better introduced in the second game. You'll also find the remote explosives here that you need to use on this wall to escape. And you'll want to do this quickly because when the raptors make it through the glass, they make very quick work of everyone. Breaking through leads you across a bridge, and thank God they actually have a T-Rex in this game. I was getting worried for a second. And don't worry, you will get to fight it later, but that depends on a choice you'll make very soon. However, before that choice is another made on the outside.
Look at that guy fly. He just went to space.
Multiple choice is a common theme with this dev, but it's not done in a lazy way like choosing some dialogue that leads basically to the same ending. No, because from here we need to go to the labs so that we can get to the reactor control room that's also located within a giant factory asset pack of reduced frames. The most critical choice is the reactor itself. Either stabilize it or don't. The multiple choice before this has no impact on the ending, but it's just there for the sake of fun, which is genuinely a massive positive and shows that the dev does care, but maybe they just didn't have enough time to get everything done in scope. Immediately when you get outside, you'll be given a choice between charging through the enemy armor with a tank or going mostly on foot via the trenches. The tank option is the easiest and shortest lived path, but still pretty fun, as all tank sections should be. Unfortunately, for some reason, the guys you saved earlier didn't come outside with you, but the tank itself has many features to keep you safe. A machine gun, the ability to pop smoke, you've got first-person aiming, and as you can see, infrared. Now, the tank section itself is quite short-lived, but it's still fun to get through. You'll have a good few opportunities to try out the weapons, and I appreciate that this is an option. Where it ends is outside of the lab, where you'll fight a few more enemies, as well as a drone if you're not stealthy enough. But the trenches, on the other hand, is, in my opinion, the more difficult option. First off, near the tank, you'll find the sniper rifle. It's a beastly weapon and fun to use, but only really good for this bit. With it, you'll want to clear out the hill where the snowballs are. And my god, does this thing have range. I think this was the moment where I realized there was no bullet drop. Now, this little area isn't too hard because enemies kind of struggle with range, but very shortly, you'll find yourself in some more tall grass. And that can only mean one thing. Similar to many other sections, this one is pretty short-lived. All you gotta do is walk a few steps forwards, shoot a raptor that's running at you, and you're already on the other side. One thing I will say is that it is kind of funny if you try to cheese this bit, because if you go round the side, all the raptors spawn and they all come for you. But when you do make it out to the other side, apparently there's a tank ready to blow you up. So you need to hide behind some rocks, and then eventually you'll actually make it in to the trenches. Now, I wish I could say that something happened here, but besides one raptor that I accidentally killed, nothing happened. It was just 10 seconds through the trenches, blow up a wall, and then kill a drone on the other side. But wait a minute, what's this? Is that a door? Is that a ladder? Is this another multiple choice? To get inside the lab, you can either choose to go through this door, where you'll start from the bottom floor, or you could just spend about a minute going up the ladder to essentially arrive at the same destination as you would have in the tank. I don't know why the ladder's here. Maybe it's just so you get the chance to go a similar way as the tank. You know, just in case you missed something, even though there isn't really anything to miss here. But you know what, whatever. I appreciate it. It doesn't really matter which way you enter the lab, but there are 3 really important things to do in here. One is to find experimental weapons, which to be honest is more optional than anything else. 2 is to escape, and 3 is not to blow up. You're going to encounter some new enemies like these explosive drones, maybe a poisonous bug, and armored opponents.
Oh no! Oh man!
To maximize on your fun in this area, it's always best to go for the grav gun first. Or should I say the black hole launcher, because this isn't Half-Life 2. The launcher can be found in this room, but it's locked and requires a key code. Now remember, to get the SMG from the drawer before, you literally had to turn around and well done, you found the key. But thankfully, they did something a bit smart here. You see, because upstairs you'll not only find proxy mines, but also some stuff like these desks, including a note by Erin Schroeder, saying that they flushed the code down the toilet before the soldiers can get into the base. And if you look around for a little bit, you will in fact find the code in one of the toilets. This is a very simple breadcrumb trail, but I like it. And the payoff for spending a little bit more time looking around the place is rewarded. Now, the launcher is great and uses gravity grenade ammo that can apparently simulate 500 times the Earth's gravity to crush all that stands near it, which in reality looks something like this. It's a fun weapon that you need to be careful with, and I did kind of find it funny that the big guys just float around, seemingly unfazed. Like honestly, how strong is that armor? He doesn't even care. The second experimental weapon is a lot less hidden, and it's the laser, or should I say focus beam. It's very powerful and able to melt through armor. But to actually get your hands on it is a little bit more intense. You see, because after fighting your way through, you'll eventually find this room full of mines and explosives that you'll need to jump over, as well as avoiding the odd sentry to make it into the room with the weapon. You can cheese this bit, by the way, if you just throw a remote explosive on a barrel and just run back. Doing so will clear the room of explosives, and I think this was intended because there are ramps to get back up onto the little boxes. But when you actually make it to the focus beam, this guy slowly descends from the ceiling to ruin your day. You could get mad at this, or you could appreciate the fact that the dev does throw things at you that you don't expect.
Listen to me very carefully. We've already lost control of the facility. There's only one thing we can do. We need to blow the facility, overload the reactor, and bring it all to the ground. Do it.
This is the director speaking to you for the first time, and if you read some of the notes beforehand, you may know by this point that the director is Elon Musk, and he is an insane man who has been conducting experiments on humans with prehistoric DNA, hence the Homo erectus rex. Not too much else to really say about it, but he wants you to overload the reactor, and this is the moment where the game plants a seed in your head before a big decision. Because once you make it out of the labs, you'll find yourself in the factory with the control room in the center, amongst many enemies. This factory not only highlights the reduced frames that come with installing massive asset packs like this, but also highlights the simplicity of the enemy AI. You see, once you aggro one guy, all of them rush to your position, making the mines probably the most useful they have ever been in this entire game. The only enemies that hold their position are snipers, who, to be fair, are fun to take out, but unfortunately, fighting is a little bit too straightforward here.
The base is back online. The cavalry is on its way.
This is the big choice in action. If you choose to stabilize the reactor, then all that's left to do is to go outside, fight a few more guys, and bear witness to the most powerful weapon in both games. I'm not going to explain the grenade launcher when the footage speaks for itself.
Wait, you know, I'm just gonna say it. Never mind. That was it. That was it. There was nothing to it, man. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that was it. That was the Elon Musk fight. Now, I already had grenade launcher ammo collected up from earlier, so going all in like this wasn't too hard. But that is it. The less destructive ending.
My God, what have you done? You've overloaded the core. In 5 minutes, the entire area is going to be a fireball the size of Rhode Island.
Personally, destabilizing the reactor is the best choice because it reminds you that you're playing a dinosaur game, as you have to escape via an underground train, but the tracks need to be reset, and before you can leave, you get to actually fight a T-Rex. This is how it was meant to be. And the cherry on top is, I guess the whole place blows up. There you go. Unfortunately, the T-Rex wasn't the most exciting fight, but at least not as quick to kill as the other boss. For the sake of further analysis, I noticed that they did also add some hazards. But let's be honest, you don't really need them. Your reward for beating the game on hard mode is that you gain access to 3 cheats, like unlimited ammo, slow motion, and big mode, which makes you big. And for science, I did compare my height to the T-Rex. Even on big mode, this thing is massive. You can see that this game had some good ideas. You can also see what the dev was trying to do. First, you break out of a dinosaur-infested facility. Then you have to take on hordes of Russians for mostly the rest of it. The issue that I had with it is that it starts off with a strong dinosaur horror theme, but loses that when dinosaurs become more secondary to the experience. And just to be clear, when I'm talking about dinosaurs, I'm also lumping in just the prehistoric animals in general. The survival horror aspect was never really there due to such an abundance, and you never truly feel overwhelmed or pressured to be calculated. But with that being said, it's actually in the DLC, Raptor Isolation, where they focus on the dinosaurs and the fear of being trapped in with them. You see, the whole scenario this time is that you play as another employee, but 5 hours after the EMP event, which, by the way, you'll find out was ordered by Elon Musk to avoid the government sniffing around. You first start in a bathroom and must explore the depths of the facility to find a way out. And you've got to do this mostly without any weapons. This time, you need to rely on stealth to not be seen, heard, or wake up any sleepy raptors. This is a more traditional horror experience. I mean, for example, when you first start, you'll encounter a survivor. Obviously, you can't just shoot this raptor or outrun it. The threat this time is real and you've got to be careful. Adding to the horror experience, you'll also encounter the odd XQC jump scare. In conjunction with this, you'll also find the proximity tracker, an item that alerts you when something is within 15 meters. Unfortunately, the proximity tracker is kind of useless after this scripted event, because you'll mostly be up against raptors and they walk loud anyway, which is a big letdown. I wanted to see more of this thing. I wanted to be alerted about this thing and have to hide before it finds me. What I did quite like though is that there's a moment where you need to learn one of the raptor's patrol paths and also learn where to hide or stop so you don't get caught. Pair this with a sleeping raptor nearby and you're basically forced to remain quiet by crouching down, which also will slow you down. I purposefully didn't mention this before, but the torch you get in both the main game and the DLC can alert enemies to your position if they see the light. But in the main game, there's no reason to care. Night vision was for the purpose of being able to see in the dark without being noticed, yet they threw it in without much purpose besides one small dark section. In the DLC, however, you'll also find some night vision goggles in this sort of silo hub area. And in this scenario, they're useful because you can't just shoot yourself out of a difficult situation. Being seen by a raptor is almost a guaranteed loss. Enemies being alerted by light is a mechanic that actually has room to breathe here. To continue with the whole horror aspect, there are of course lockers you can hide in. Obviously it's not going to be anything like Alien Isolation. To be honest, it's more like Hello Neighbor. But I won't slag them off too much because one of them saved my life in a weirdly not surprising way.
Oh, he actually saw me. God damn it, man. Wait, what? You good? You know what, man? I'm just gonna take it as a blessing. Thank you very much.
The concept is simple. Escape, and to do so you must find 2 halves of a disc to use on this lift. An idea that was of course shamelessly stolen by Elden Ring months later. There's no order to which half you must find. One path takes you into the dark area where you'll encounter the scripted mutant and a locked door with 1 half behind it. The code to the door is very simple but kinda cool to figure out, because in one of the notes you'll find, you'll learn that the code is the combination of both the human and T-Rex chromosome pairs. And if you look at this poster on the wall, the code isn't too hard to figure out. This is also where you'll find the proximity tracker and the locker that saved my life. To find the other half in practice is done by sneaking past the kitchen raptor to find and pull a lever that opens a big door containing both another raptor and the other half in a box. If you stay crouched, listen and take your time, it's not that bad. I just got very unlucky at certain points.
No. That's actually so fucked. I'm sorry, I'm calling bullshit on that one.
But for analysis' sake, there is a bit of a twist to this one. Falling down here gives you only one way to go, which is further down into the sewers. And in the sewers, after looking around for a little bit, you'll eventually encounter a familiar foe, the snake. You can just run past this guy straight off the bat if you wanted to, and if you do, you'll find a ladder that takes you all the way up to where the other disc is. Now, here's the thing with this part. If you didn't pull the lever from before to open the door that gives you access to the disc, taking this path becomes less of a shortcut and more of a inconvenience, because you'll have to go back through the kitchen to pull the lever. However, with that being said, I do appreciate this section because it was tense. You see, after picking up this half of the disc, I had to go back, but that required me to be sneaky and avoid the raptor that's currently patrolling. To get past it, I had to figure out where to stop and when to move. And with every step, I was on edge because these guys are fast. And this is what dinosaur horror is all about. It's not about the sudden jump scares, it's just knowing that the thing that's about to chase you can run you down like any other prey. Anyway, with both halves obtained, you can combine them together to make the full disc. And with said disc, you can now use the lift to go up. This next part of the level is the confrontation part, where you'll eventually encounter Elon Musk and he'll give you a choice. A choice between fighting the man raptor, the weird skinny one, or the Homo erectus rex, which we've already seen before. Of course I picked the man raptor because I wanted to see what it can do, and after it jumped through the window, I regretted that very quickly. This guy is fast and he'll chase you through these corridors, but eventually you will make it to a room with a machine that can crush and a flamer unit locked behind a case. Now, depending on what mutant you picked, the ending will be different. The only thing that isn't, however, is the Elon Musk encounter after defeating either one.
You're tougher than you look, I'll give you that. But if you think you can get away with killing my babies, you have another thing coming. I'm sorry, friendo, but this has always been a no-win situation. Goodbye for the final time.
If you pick the man raptor, you'll be sent down into the basement, and in this basement you'll wait for about a minute or so before a big door opens. As you can see, it's a good idea to have the flame unit for this ending, and thankfully it's not too hard to get because the code to open the case is only a couple meters away from it. Also, the man raptor is really weak to fire, so that helps. But there you go, you kill the two raptors or run past them to the ladder leading outside. Now, if you pick the Homo erectus rex, you don't need the flame unit, because crushing him is a lot easier. After this, instead of being lowered into the basement, you'll be taken upstairs to the next floor. Up here, you'll notice this big fan and a lever that if you pull it, it starts sucking things in. But you'll also notice that in this room is another Homo erectus rex. There's not really much of a challenge to this bit, because all you've got to do is stand here, wait for him to walk over, and hey, look at that, he's getting sucked into the fan. There you go, that's your escape. This DLC in a nutshell proves that they can make a decent horror game. It's simple stuff, but they know what to do. And it goes to show that maybe they just didn't have enough experience at the time to make the main game anything more than an unbalanced power fantasy with sometimes a scary face. Yes, it's wonky, it's clunky, and it's very low budget, but this early on in their career, there is promise. The question now, of course, is if the sequel is a step up from this. Did they learn from their mistakes? And is it a better experience? Fossil Fuel 2 released on the 19th of February 2024 and is hands down a much more interesting experience than the last. To be fair, it's still a low budget looking game with that asset pack feel to it, but the more I played it, the more I could see the effort and character that they tried to put in. Similar to the first game, there's always something new on each level. No moment felt tedious or repetitive. There's always some kind of unique obstacle to encounter. Now, I played through this game 3 times. The third time was because I forgot to find a weapon that I needed to cover, but I'd say that the playtime on average is about 2 hours worth of content. And that's not including the multiple endings that are legitimately worth doing for the fun of it. The whole horror element was much better applied in this game. Yes, you may have a gun and the tools to deal with a tough situation, but it still does a good job of keeping you on your toes. Overall, there was more of a plan this time. They learned from their mistakes and didn't try to just capitalize on what hype that there was from the last. Don't get me wrong, I did encounter a few bugs, quite literally, like these ones that were dead but still followed me through the wall, and to be honest, not much else besides figuring out how to use guns underwater to shoot anglerfish. You're obviously not supposed to do that, but it's fun, and yes, there is swimming in this game too. A feature that isn't just used once for the sake of it. It takes a bit more time to get your first gun in this game, and you'll be stuck with the only melee weapon for a good portion of the first level. This tomahawk, to be more specific, that's best used against crates. However, you can use it against a raptor if you're really up for that. From the very start, you'll be given a camera to take pictures of dinosaurs and points of interest. Taking pictures of relevant things will gain you points that you won't know the purpose of until later, and you'll get more points by capturing dinosaurs that are alive.
That was a bad idea, man. That was a really bad idea. That was a really bad idea. Fucking shot his head off.
You gotta love how the flash actually works against you. It's genuinely a great payoff and turns this into more of a risky Pokemon snap, especially when you're trying to take pics of sleeping dinosaurs. There are also some collectibles that you can grab along the way, these trading cards to be exact. To be honest, at first I thought that these were useless and just an excuse for an achievement. But no, thankfully I was wrong. Because if you collect them all, you'll gain access to a sandbox mode, a test level that allows you to summon in any weapon, enemy, or item just to mess about with. I love how this is a thing, and it makes collecting collectibles so much more worth it. The dev doesn't even force you into exploring every single multiple choice. It doesn't matter what path you take, you'll always have a chance to collect all of them. Although I do have to say, jumping in here as Future Wiz, that there has been an update recently that makes the sandbox mode a default update, so you don't need the trading cards to actually play in the sandbox mode. It was a genuinely cool reward though, and the reason why they did this is because not too many people actually unlock this mode, so fair enough. Speaking of additional content, they also have Horde mode that starts you off with a few friendly NPCs and has you facing off against progressively worse waves of enemies in an arena that even has some kind of environmental hazards. There is also DLC for this game, but this time it's free. They just added extra content with no change to the actual price. What I can also appreciate is that they included a Call of Duty 4 inspired training level. It shows you how to use certain mechanics, but mostly acts as extra content for those very few looking to get a high score. The fact that you can also shoot the coach at the end and get mobbed by security as a result is a detail they didn't need to include, but unironically puts it ahead of some AAA games in regards to what I like to call find out mechanics. Where Fossil Fuel became less of a horror and more of a standard FPS, Fossil Fuel 2 at least tries to keep the survival horror element alive. Even towards the end, there's a new kind of threat. There are moments where you want to be sneaky, and dark spaces that keep you on edge. This time, there are more enemies worth taking seriously, and ones that you can't kill till much later, making for some pretty intense moments.
Fuck yeah. Oh god, he's right there.
The scenario this time is that you play as a mercenary from an organization called PMC Alpha that is on a mission to retrieve lost data from the Sierra research facility, the one you either blew up or didn't. In practice, the lost data is found in the form of 3 drives containing source code. And as expected, each one will lead you further into the depths of the facility, but on the way, you'll have to make a crucial choice. The setup is pretty cool. You start on a ship and go outside to see that you're caught in the middle of a storm. But then soon come to realize that the storm is the least of your concerns, because that was clearly a big shark and it is very big, and the ship is now falling over. In the water, you'll see this guy up close and personal, although thankfully not in as much detail as your friend. After that cutscene, you'll then wake up on the shore alone, and this is where the game begins. Here you'll find a camera with some guidance on how to use it, as well as some containers to take pictures of, and your first dinosaur sighting. If you're curious enough, you'll find some armor and a note a little bit further up the beach. The note reveals that there are other survivors out here, and it makes mention of the shark attack, but also another giant fish to worry about later, or right now if you go back into the sea.
Oh. So that's what happens when you go in the water.
Again, another thing they didn't need to add, but they added anyway to reward or punish you for your curiosity. One thing you'll notice in some of the footage is that there are these icons placed on points of interest to help guide the player, which thankfully can be turned off because they're kind of annoying and it breaks immersion. Now, the goal here is to simply get inside the facility. And to do so, you need to pick up the tomahawk to use on this lock to gain access to this silo. To actually open the silo, you need to do 3 things. Find a valve, turn on a generator, and use an activation console. Activation consoles are basically the hacking minigame of the game.
Just let me die.
Just press space at the right time, a few times, and you're in. For this situation in particular, all you need to do is hack the console, then turn the valve, and look at that, the silo's now open. Moving forwards, we take the lift down into the facility, and this place looks a lot different compared to the last game, and I would say for the better. Immediately, you'll be introduced to the map, and what you'll notice about this game is that it's a little bit more free roam compared to the last. The first task is to simply explore, but very soon you'll find a laptop. Similar to the first game, you'll use these to save, but this time you need to use a consumable item, more specifically a USB stick. If you played Resident Evil, I think we all know where the inspiration came from. But in this game, you won't really need to worry about finding USBs, they're quite generous with them. Anyway, you'll also find some money here, as well as a note that basically tells us that we need to reduce the water level to proceed, and to do so, we must go into the water to find and turn 3 valves. There's also hot steam blocking the path to the museum, and you'll need to resolve that to progress as well. Before doing either task, you may notice a vent that you can hide in, and this introduces the concept of hiding spots. But besides one moment further down the corridor, you probably won't find the need to use them. Down the corridor, you'll find a barricade, and next to it, a note basically telling you that there is a raptor in the steam room. Now, some may say that this is a spoiler, but I would say that this puts me on edge thanks to prior experience. The barricades in this game thankfully block anything from following you, and squeezing through this one takes you into a dark area with a lamp lighting the room. Getting close to the lamp brings up some dialogue, saying, "It looks like someone was just in here, maybe a survivor from the ship." Here's where you're shown how to use your torch, and I like how unsettling this area feels compared to the last game. The lighting still isn't perfect, but the vibe is definitely there, even if the situation is diffused a little bit by finding a trading card. Just to be clear, I won't show all of them, somebody's already made a walkthrough on how to find every single one, link in the description, but it is pretty funny just to think how these came to be. Was it just some guy who brought a bunch of trading cards to work and just dropped them around the place, or did they have company booster packs? I don't know. Anyway, progressing forwards, you'll be introduced to a sleeping raptor, and this is actually a really good way to introduce not only sneaking, but crouching, because I'm pretty sure most people are going to want to sneak past this thing and not want to wake it up. Now, you need to sneak past this guy to get over to the steam control valve to, of course, turn off the steam. You're shown a bit of a cutscene as to where the steam has turned off, which I think is pretty good, but regardless of how sneaky you were, going back will be a bit different.
What the fuck, man?
If I didn't say it before, I'll say it again. This dev does jump scares the right way, because now there's a very awake raptor walking around and you just gotta run back to the barricade. I tried sneaking back, but I could already hear it going for me, so no chance I'm sticking around. Anyway, the next objective is quite simple. All you need to do is jump into the water near the entrance and turn 3 valves in order to lower the water levels to gain access to Central. On your way, you will find some anglerfish, but they're no threat. If you get too close, they are, but all you gotta do is lower the water levels, and there you go. They can't really do anything about it. With the steam off and the water levels lowered, you now have 2 places to explore, the museum and Central. What I like about the museum is that it's exactly the kind of place you'd expect for a dinosaur game. And it's kind of funny how out of place it looks compared to the whole facility. Now, this is a great opportunity to score some photography points, and trust me, it's well worth collecting some points for later. But in the middle of this room is a fallen colleague of yours, and on the floor next to him is a short-range radio.
Jack, you survived. The mission is still on. Find the CR source code hard drives. Remember, the objective is to recover all 3. Keep your eyes open. I don't want any surprises.
What the fuck? Why am I inside?
This is where the main objective to collect 3 drives is established, and the only other place to go after this is Central. Central is a sort of hub area with a big computer in the middle, and is also the first place where I discovered night vision on the camera, which, similar to night vision in Fossil Fuel 1, keeps you undetected. Now, there are a couple things to do here, and again, the order doesn't really matter. One is to simply find a gun, and the other is to turn the power on so you can gain access to the computer. Finding your first gun is possible if you manage to turn off the steam, because with it off, you can gain access to bioaccess, which will lead you to a few dark rooms with a problem inside.
Oh, I need that gun.
Thankfully, said problem can be resolved pretty quick, as you'll find the gun next to another colleague of yours, who also provides some easy photography points. And of course, after picking it up, you'll trigger some hostile activity. Headshots count in this game, and even more so with higher power weapons. But that slow motion on top is just such a nice reward. Turning the power on is a pretty simple process. From Central, all you gotta do is go up some stairs and over to the utility room. Easy enough, and now you can hack into the computer, but of course, it's not that simple.
Good evening, Doctor. Oh, I see you're not the doctor. Running diagnostic. It would appear that we have catastrophic containment breach and flooding in all levels. Implementing additional lockdown measures. I'm sorry, intruder, but I cannot allow you to leave.
This AI is the main villain, or one of them depending on your temperament later, who can see that things have gone to shit and you're considered part of the problem. So it shuts down the facility to prevent escape, but while doing so also opens a door within bioaccess. And said door leads to bioengineering, where you'll be introduced to a couple new things. One is the concept of a safe room where you'll find some gear and a save point. According to this note, we have janitor Philip Jenkins to thank for creating these rooms. And he was even kind enough to leave the Sierra tactical shotgun on the wall. This weapon is interesting for multiple reasons. First things first, you can change the ammunition to incendiary, so fire, but also you can change the spread of it, which makes this very powerful even at mid-range. Another nice little touch to it, maybe it's just a part of the asset pack, but you can see the icon change on the actual gun. The second thing you'll encounter is this lab room and a jar with a creature inside it. On the desk in front of you is the first drive. Upon picking it up, you'll trigger some more dialogue from the AI, and he introduces the specimen as Goliath, while proceeding to drain the jar and set him free. Before you need to worry about him, there's also a lockpick to find in this room that we need to use to progress. Lockpicking, in summary, is pretty straightforward, just press up and move along. There are no chests that require a lockpick to my knowledge, and it's not a heavily recurring mechanic later. But there is a gate that you may miss which can be found back where you turn the power on, and beyond this gate is a very useful item. Because unlocking this gate will allow you to enter this dark room that, according to this note, has some raptors hiding in the vents, and that stepping on glass will alert them. But my god, is it worth the risk, because here is where you'll find the 44 Magnum. A gun that will absolutely wreck anything you'll encounter for the next few levels, and is actually needed to take on some harder enemies later. Breaking the fourth wall here, I only just realized, by the way, that that was a triple headshot. I'll say it again, this is a very powerful gun. With the first drive secured, we need to make it up to the next level via the lift in the museum, but that requires a blue keycard. So, as you can imagine, finding that keycard is the next objective. With the lockpick in hand, you can gain access to this tunnel. Now, there are two ways to go here, like a lot of things, there are two options. One is to go to that place where I got that nice triple headshot. In here, you can also unlock a shortcut to the museum if you really wanted. And the other place is halfway down a hallway in this room where things get bad pretty quick.
I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. I did it. That was sick. Whoa! Wait a minute. Did it just get... I think it got me whilst I... Yeah.
That is the Dunkleosteus. I think that's how you call it. The same fish that we saw after going back into the sea. And this bit is essentially an escape room where the big fish, I can't be asked to pronounce its actual name, is trying to smash through the glass, and we need to find two valves to bring the shutter down. The blue valve is found in the corner on a barrel, which is simple enough to get, but the red valve is locked behind another gate. I failed on my first attempt simply because I didn't really know what I was looking for, but as you can imagine, once you know, it's a super simple process. When you get the shutters down, the door opens to your exit, but said exit is a little bit compromised.
What's going on here? Oh, God, I've got to go this way.
I've got to give credit, this is a nice introduction to Goliath outside of the jar. You've already faced one threat, and now another that's trying to chase you down. And to be honest, he's not that much of a concern. All I had to do here was go around him, go through the hole he made, and make it to a barricade. A barricade that for some reason he can't smash through. But once you make it through this barricade, you'll have to fight some more dinosaurs, and in this room is where the blue keycard can be found. From this point onwards, you need to make it back to the museum. Besides a couple raptors and the chance that Goliath might charge you down, it doesn't take too long to get there, and once you're in there, nothing will follow you in. So now with the blue keycard, you're free to go to the next level, which is the dark and dismal laboratory. Straight out of the lift, you'll find yourself in a safe hub area that was set up by employees after the facility was attacked. Immediately you'll notice the armory, and inside is a familiar weapon, the now iconic Sierra Blaster that still fires 9mm and also has a laser sight. A laser sight that reflects a bit too much off the walls, but either way, it's pretty damn effective. You can't get this till you obtain the yellow keycard though, and to do that, you need to go into the dark. The first area you must explore is through the only available barricade, and there's no sign of life as you traverse the hallways beyond it. However, that changes rather quickly when you make it downstairs and encounter a few raptors. After clearing the raptors, you'll find and flip a switch that opens a security door back at the hub, and through the security door, you'll encounter the first vending machine. Besides armor, ammo, meds, and saves, you'll be able to purchase a backpack for 10 more slots of inventory space, which, again, is probably the best purchase you can make. However, there are a couple new items that could be useful, like C4 and grenades that look like Duracell batteries. C4 is pretty standard, you place it somewhere and detonate it. And of course, grenades are grenades. You can also sell things at the vending machine, which is pretty good in a pinch. But there's something else that I haven't yet introduced, and it's the storage boxes. They're basically the ender chest in the game, so whenever you find a storage box, you'll always find items that you stored in any one of them. Moving forwards beyond the barricade, you'll notice to your right a locked area. And to open said locked area, we need to go into some office spaces where there's a problem to be avoided.
Just gonna hide in here. Watch him piss. I guess I became piss. What kind of, like, one-liner is that?
This is the more dedicated cat and mouse section where you're being chased by Goliath, and with how claustrophobic the space is, he can catch you off guard. You could hide, you could use vents, but honestly the best strat here is just to run around until you find the power box that you need to destroy in order to open the other area. Going through here is a bit of a stealth section. You need to avoid CCTV and there are some sleeping raptors, but it's so short that you might as well just take some pics and run through because the barricade isn't that far. Once you make it through the barricade, you'll finally find the yellow keycard. And to get out of here, you just need to break the wood that's blocking the door.
Oh! Quick! I made it. I fucking made it, man. He's sniffing at me. Look at him.
With a jump scared and a wool raptor tamed, the armory is now available. There's nothing of note in here that hasn't already been seen, but there is another switch to open the upstairs area, which is the final and most dangerous part of the level. It's advised that when you go up here, you break the 2 boxes to the right of the door and pick up the antidotes, because here comes the poison. The Dilophosaurus is the poisonous enemy of the game, and I would say that they're just a bit more stressful than dealing with raptors. What I will say as well is that the antidote doesn't seem to be really needed for anything else besides these guys. It is good to have some, but the best antidote, honestly, is just the 44 Magnum. Now, the upstairs has a door that requires 2 compositions to open. Composition A can be found on one side of the floor at the end of a long hallway. Picking it up triggers a bunch of red lasers that, for whatever reason, I didn't bother to trip in order to see what happens if you touch one. But with the turrets on the ceiling, one can assume that touching a red laser won't be good. Composition B is on the other side of the floor in a small lab. It's simply on the wall, but taking it will trigger a lockdown extermination sequence, and the lab becomes an escape room very fast. The way to get out of here is to open this fridge using a code and grab the empty vial within so that you can Indiana Jones the composition. I did try escaping before the lockdown, but it's too fast. The code to the fridge itself is a simple enough equation to solve, however with the limited time it can be very stressful. I like this, it wasn't too complicated, it put the pressure on, and overall it was a good escape room. Now, there is one little thing to add here. You can save in a safe room just around the corner, but going back onto the main floor opens up a hole that can take you back down to the first dark area. It's a weirdly annoying thing to add that doesn't really make much sense because you've already cleared the previous rooms, and Goliath doesn't appear to be down here anyway, so all you have to do is walk back up to the top floor. It's more of an inconvenience if anything else. Luckily, I managed to dodge it on my first run, but either way, with both compositions, you now have access to a boss room that contains an upgraded version of Goliath. What's cool about this is that you can clearly see that the developer tried to make an actual boss fight. To do any significant damage to him, you need to lure him into a pool of water and flip a switch to zap him. This will also allow you to get in a few cheap shots. Besides constantly chasing you down and shooting rockets, what makes this more intense is that you can't keep flipping the switch. You've got to wait for the timer to go down before you can electrocute him again. On harder difficulties, you'll also have to face a Dilophosaurus, which can make things a bit more stressful. Then again, with that being said, if you have the 44 Magnum, just shoot him in the head. With Goliath dead, a door opened to a room where you can now obtain the second drive. From here, you'll be urged to go back to the lift so that you can make it to the next level, which is the paddocks. The paddocks contains the last drive, and it's the first place where you'll learn how important photography is. You'll first start off in a safe room, again, but it's not really a hub that you'll have to come back to till much later. Similar to many other scenarios, there are two valves that you need to find to open a large door. The first one you can find is in a room that requires platforming, and the catch here is that there's this stupid electric fish that for some reason you can't kill. The thing that messed me up the most about this was obviously my own skill issue, but it was the fact that the trading card for said fish was on this platform in the corner, and getting to it was a struggle. But thankfully, getting the valve itself isn't too difficult, and there are some wires in this room that you need to cut in order to gain access to the other room where you'll find the other valve. And getting the next valve is quite straightforward. You just need to go over this very thin pipe, and below you can already hear there's a bit of foreshadowing. That is the Spinosaurus, and we'll see it pretty soon. Anyway, with both valves secured, you can open the big door, and this will lead you to a water section. Immediately, you'll find some diving gear, and this will mean that you can breathe underwater for as long as you want, which is kind of funny considering how short this section is. All this room requires you to do is to find another valve, which is really not too far from the place you need to put it, just so you can gain access to the way out. This was also the place where I discovered that if you use your camera underwater and then simply stop using it, you can pull out your gun and shoot the fish underwater. This is something I'm pretty sure you're not meant to do, but it is kind of funny you can do it. Once you're out of the water, you'll encounter a couple dinos in a large hallway. Now from here, you can either go right towards the paddocks or go left to open up a shortcut to the safe room so that you can save game. I'd recommend doing this first. When you finally make it to the paddocks, you may get some flashbacks to Fossil Fuel 1, but rest assured, this is the only long grass section in the game. Which is actually kind of sad to say, because not seeing the threat before they're too close in such a natural way is a great concept for a dinosaur game.
Jack, come in. I got men trapped in a pressure chamber on your floor. Water's filling up fast. This entire place is sinking into the ocean.
Oh shit.
You've got to get to them in time before they drown.
Oh no.
You can do it, Jack.
Very soon after making it out of the long grass, you're presented with a bit of a problem. Two of your colleagues are about to drown and you need to shut off two valves to save them. Two valves that are at the end of a suspiciously long bridge. A Spinosaurus, really? Jesus Christ, man. Well, obviously the first thing I need to do is take a picture. I didn't know this at the time, but the Spinosaurus is an optional boss. However, with that being said, without any high-powered weapons, I'm still glad that I managed to beat it, because I got an achievement, and that means something to me. Although what I will say is that I spent most of my ammo and kind of forgot that this was a timed mission, so I couldn't really save the guys in time. The Spinosaurus fight itself is quite straightforward. You just avoid it, shoot it, it will throw some rocks at you as well, and you'll need to take on a few other dinosaurs here and there. Also, for those curious as to how the 44 Magnum fares in a situation like this, very well. It is very good, and that can be applied to pretty much every boss. Now, how this whole bit works, whether you kill the Spinosaurus or not, is that you need to go into its cave, turn right again, and you'll make it to a switch that lowers a ladder on the other side of the bridge. After you get up this ladder, you need to hack a console, and then after that, turn the 2 valves. If you don't do this in time and you fail, you'll get scolded for it and end up with some ammo. However, and this is kind of weird me saying this, if you do succeed, your colleagues have clearly run off and are nowhere to be seen. So technically speaking, you actually get more from failing this. And I say this not in total confidence, but I didn't notice any negative knock-on effects. Anyway, moving forwards, you'll encounter a few more raptors before stumbling upon some more water that if you jump into, you'll find a hole leading to another safe room, but this one is occupied.
Hold your fire, Yankee. My name is Natalia and I think we can help each other. I have been sent by my government to secure assets from the company. I am a little green man, you might say. If you can provide photos of Sierra technology and property, I can make a trade for rare items to help you on your mission.
Natalia is an optional character that you'll either stumble across now or be introduced to later. And what's cool about her besides her freaky walk is that she sells items for pics, which sounds kind of cursed reading that out. From her you can obtain the master keycard, which is essential to access all possible endings and also to get a really cool weapon. If you want, you can also buy the grenade launcher, which honestly will carry your run a bit more than the 44, which is wild to say. And finally, you can get a silencer for your pistol that you don't really need because you will find a much better silenced weapon pretty soon. Any extra points can be exchanged for cash, and for the one person wondering if you can shoot her, no, you can't. At least, not yet. Beyond the safe house is the final push to the last drive. On your way, you'll quickly find the H2 flame unit, which this time, compared to the last game, is much better introduced. Because now it's time to burn some bugs in the insectarium. You're going to need some caution going through here. Even though the flame unit is pretty damn effective against them, there are quite a lot of bugs to deal with. Fun fact, you don't need to deal with all of them on the wall in this room, but you will want to be a bit conservative with ammo. Now, getting through here isn't too hard. There is a bit of platforming and an optional loot room, a loot room that you can choose to flood and lock off, or fight the bugs inside to get more Duracell grenades. But it's at the end where you'll fight the biggest and stinkiest bug of them all. This is the last boss fight before the final drive, and in reality, it's not too difficult to get through. It is a bit of a challenge, especially if you get cornered, but it is a dung beetle, so it will be flinging poo, and to make things a bit more stressful, there will be smaller bugs to deal with. Now, this boss does have an autosave, so if you spent all of your ammo on the Spinosaurus and didn't get any high-powered weapons from Natalia, you'll probably need to backtrack, which happened to me on my first run because I just didn't have enough ammo to kill it, and melee is pretty much not an option. But either way, after you defeat it, a door will open to a room that contains the final drive, as well as a nice weapon. The R27 battle rifle, to be exact. What's cool about this is not just that it's silenced, but you can also switch between single fire or 3-round burst, making it quite the effective stealth option. Now, once you've secured the third drive, you'll hear back from your commander and will be told to meet him upstairs on the ground floor. Thankfully, because this dev really doesn't want you to backtrack, this room opens up to the starting area with the lift.
Yankee, I have a proposition for you. If you get me the Sierra source code, my government will make you a rich man. Just deny that captain of yours and make a run for it. I have a secret way out of here.
This is the game planting a seed in your head before a big decision. And if you haven't met Natalia yet, you can do so via her shop in the ceiling. It's basically the same deal up here, but this will be the last chance to get anything from her, including the master keycard that you'll need to unlock a special room on this level. Now, minus the toilets that reveal a massive blockage caused before the facility went down, there are 3 places to explore within this conference area. One is Security HQ, where you'll find the SA-4 assault rifle, which is a pretty standard automatic rifle that is useful in a pinch. Here you'll also find a note foreshadowing a new enemy type called the Blight. We'll see these very soon, but thanks to this note left by who I believe to be Lieutenant Finley from the last game, we now know what to expect and that they're weak to the 44 as pretty much everything is, as well as also explosives. Another room to explore is Elon Musk's office upstairs. It can be accessed using a code that can be found on the walls of the conference room if you're observant enough. In his office are some notes about progress with the research, as well as a T-Rex trading card. But the most important thing here is the Robo-Rex rap.
I'm Robo-Rex, stepping in the light. My name is straight, dynamite. I won't forget you once you're in my sight, cause my memory made of terabytes.
I'm pretty damn sure they commissioned somebody to make this. I even found the full thing on YouTube. Link in the description. I don't think there's much to say about this. I love it, and it has definitely earned some extra points. Now, the final room is only accessible using the master key card. Just be careful when you enter. After dodging 2 lasers, this is where you'll pick up the Oppenheimer, a weapon that combines both of the prototype weapons from the last game into one. What's cool about it is that the ammo recharges over time, and also that it has 2 modes, a laser mode, which is really good at, as you've seen, chopping people in half, kind of makes gameplay a bit more fun, and also a black hole launcher, which is still dangerous if you get too close, but it provides a very powerful alternative against tankier enemies. I won't go into it too much, but you'll see this weapon in a lot of footage because, honestly, it's just fun to use.
You actually made it to the surface. Good. At least you can give me the source file so I can get paid.
This is Maximus. You'll recognize him as your head of command, and you probably wouldn't have known his actual name unless you read one of the notes in the beginning or maybe somewhere else. And we've got a choice. We either help him get paid or run off with the source code. If you decide to betray him, he threatens you and walks off.
I'm coming for you. I'm gonna put my boot up your ass.
If you stick with him, that guy doesn't violently slag you off. Going with Maximus leads you to a room full of allied NPCs who have reliably enthusiastic dialogue.
Jack, thank God you're here. We got something new incoming that we ain't never seen before, and they ain't no dinosaur. You hurry up and get those turrets set up now.
This whole room is a standoff where you need to pick up and install a sentry that will momentarily hold off the blights. These are the new mutant enemy that we've already heard about that will be a problem throughout this whole section. The standoff itself is pretty cool. As the big door shuts them out, you can hear them coming through the vents, and I've got to give a lot of credit to the dev here. This moment where you're waiting, where you hear them getting closer, makes the sudden rush of enemies so much more impactful. I've always loved moments like this. It's a proper Colonial Marines type situation. And to keep things tense, the NPCs you're with aren't invincible either.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that.
They will get cut down, whether it's me testing out my gun or the blights killing them. So eventually you're going to need to make a break for it. But on your way out, you'll find yourself in a worse situation. Now we're in the sewer, and the only way to get out is by opening this large door. But the only way to do that is to fight through the blights. While some will rush you, others will hold back and fire energy weapons that can deal a lot of damage. You can see in my first run how hard it was to kill them, but that 44, man, it comes in handy. It is actually unhealthy how much I like this gun. It had the ability to break the audio in the last game, and now it's breaking blight. As you push forwards, you'll encounter a room with boxes and conveyor belts. What you need to do here is to follow said conveyor belts till the end of the line, do a slightly annoying jump, and make it through a narrow corridor where you really quickly need to pull the lever on one side and hack the console on the other before a Triceratops charges you down. Successfully doing so will gain us access to the switch we need to open that big door. And from here, it's just going back and fighting a few more blights, or you could just run past them. Thankfully, they have no idea how to jump. Although, with that being said, this isn't the last of the blight, because once you make it through the big door, you'll enter another dark room, only to find one friendly NPC, a few sentries scattered around, and very soon, a number on the top of the screen that basically says, kill X amount of enemies. This is another standoff, but at least there's a bit of a goal to it. You just need to place yourself in the center of the room, make sure you place the sentries down in that area, and stay on guard. Once you've cleared all the enemies, a door will open to a safe room containing a save point, vending machine, and storage box. Now, this is where you really want to grab some ammo, because in the room next to this is clearly an arena for something dangerous enough for the game to provide a bunch of sentries, and that said something is the AI's last chance to stop you in your tracks.
Hello, intruder. It seems this is my last chance to stop you. Therefore, I must pull out Robo-Rex. This is your end.
Jesus Christ, look at him. Look at the size of this guy.
Fighting the Robo-Rex is pretty cool, and if you're not using high-powered weapons, he can turn you to a snack pretty fast. I think what I like the most about this guy is that he sounds and looks like some kind of Crash Bandicoot boss. I think it might be the rockets, or this energy ball he fires every now and then. I don't know, there's something about him that really fits the picture. It is a shame, however, that unlike Crash Bandicoot, there's not really much of a dimension to it, because the fight really just boils down to a battle against ammo, and that's pretty much it. I'm not trying to provide concepts of what it should have been like, but there's no sort of stage, there's no limitation, there's nothing really holding me back, or something for me to solve to apply damage in the first place, or anything to really do besides shoot. If there was a bit more to it, like I know the dev has provided for some other bosses, including one we'll see very soon, then this fight would have had a bit more impact. After the fight, you'll need to go back to where Robo-Rex came from, which is down here, and down here is where you're going to find the server to the AI itself.
It seems there's been a mistake. Please don't. I must implore you to stop your current course of action. Doing this will destroy me. Intruder, I love you. Please stop. You don't want to do this. Intruder, you are a piece of animal filth.
You can choose to listen to all this thing has to say, but it doesn't really do much else to plead with you. And the only option you have to get out of here is to destroy it, because doing so will allow you to go back up into the boss area, and in here you'll notice this big door open to the outside world. Now, the outside section we'll come back to in a bit more detail later, because the experience with this path, this ending that we've taken, is pretty brief. First, you'll meet up with your colleagues who will help you to kill some raptors. Then, as if it's tradition, you need to find 2 valves to activate a lift. Once you make it up said lift, you'll be at the docks, and at the docks is the boat you need to get on to escape. But of course, it's not going to be that simple.
So I think you got to get in this, and then... Oh, that wasn't good. What did I do? Oh, fuck.
This is the Megalodon fight, where you need to jump on the harpoon, stun it, shoot it a bunch of times, and win. The concept is simple enough, but it does keep you on edge, because you know that you've only got one chance. Sometimes you'll be looking for it and then see that it's already pretty close. Now, we will encounter this guy again in one of the alternate endings, but once you kill it in this ending, you go off into the sunset with everybody else, knowing damn well that Maximus is going to get paid and you're probably not going to get a bonus. In my humble opinion, this is the least interesting ending, because betrayal, as you'll soon see, is pretty fun. Betraying Maximus will open a door to the left, which will lead to a proper stealth section, where your now ex-colleagues will shoot you on sight. This is where the R27 on single fire setting comes in very useful. You'll want to take out the CCTV cameras, obviously you want to take out anybody who's going to get in your way, and the objective here is to quite simply just get a key card from this guy who you can also perform a takedown on. Now, there are some lasers preventing you from progressing, and to turn them off, you just need to use the key card to open up this gate, and there you go, you find the switch. With the lasers off, you can now proceed to the next room, and in the next room is probably one of the coolest things, because you'll come over to this control panel and release a raptor that you can control.
No way! No way!
You can hear it in my voice how amazed I was. This was genuinely a surprise. This could have just been another boring linear shooter, but they actually give you the chance to become a dinosaur in a dinosaur game. Playing as Raptor is pretty fun. You're freakishly fast, can jump high, and can assassinate unsuspecting infantry. The whole idea here is to sneak about. You're not invincible and can die pretty fast. You need to make your way through this place to open up doors and basically give your human self access to this area. Another nice touch to this is that you can also free other raptors. For the briefest of moments, you can work in a pack against humans. Now, unfortunately, this whole section is kind of short-lived. And there was this really confusing bit at the end where I wasn't really too sure what to do or where to go, because there were some wires I needed to cut, and said wires were very well hidden within this wall texture. With the wires cut, you go back to controlling your human self. But now, you need to go back into that room as a human with the raptors you've just released. I like this a lot, because the raptors that I released were optional. Once you make it to the end of this place, you'll find a switch that you can flip, and said switch opens a door to the helicopter pad. This will trigger a wave of infantry that you can just laser away, and when you finally make it back to that door, you'll walk into a room with a multiple choice. On a table in this room is some C4, a save point, and a note from Natalia basically saying that you can go your own way via the boat docks or escape with her via helicopter. And this choice is already made for you depending on if you got the master key or not, because you need it to get through the security door that leads you to the helicopter pad. So in this scenario, let's assume that you didn't pick up the master key card and your only option is to break through this wall. Very soon after breaking through the wall, you'll find a door that is locked. And to unlock this door, you need to fight through some infantry to flip a switch. And there you go. Through the door, you'll find yourself in a dark back room that does a pretty good job of introducing the Blight. This dark hallway takes you pretty much straight to the sewers. And honestly, this whole bit is pretty much the same as before. Same mutants, same conveyor belts, and the same platforming. But once you open the big door to get to the room with all the sentries, this time you'll be on your own against the Blights. And yes, after this bit is the Robo-Rex fight, there is no difference here. Where things get a bit more wacky is when you go outside. Because again, like before, you need to find 2 valves to access a lift. But this time, you're up against humans. And you've got to be very sneaky in this part, because if you're not, they'll all be alerted to your position. However, it's not them you should be worried about. No, it's what comes after.
Oh, fuck. What's going on? What the fuck, man? What is this? What?
The idea that any noise will trigger a swarm of raptors is a plot twist I really wasn't expecting, and it's a pretty cool punishment for not being stealthy enough. Anyway, when you get up the lift, you'll make it to the boat docks, but this time, Maximus is in a mech and he's been waiting for you.
End of the line, man. I'm gonna chew you up.
This fight is pretty cool. I appreciate that the boss has some different firing modes. He also summons some soldiers here and there, so that can be a bit stressful. And unlike the other boss fights, I can't really say that this was an easy one with the amount of times I kept going into my inventory just to heal myself or catch a break. But in the end, defeating Maximus allows you to get to the boat, and on the boat, yet again, you'll be confronted with the Megalodon. The only difference this time is that you're on your own, and on a fight or mechanic level, it is the same thing. This time when you defeat the Megalodon, you go off into the sunset on your own, knowing damn well you're not going to work tomorrow. Now, if you have the master key card and use it on this door to escape with Natalia, you'll quickly find yourself in another blight-infested dark area. Similar to the sewers, if you don't have any high-powered weapons, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, and even more so when you get towards the end. Because once you get to the end, you'll come across this room with 3 blights just chilling there with a valve that you can turn to try and set them on fire. But to progress from here, you need to call down a lift, and this will activate another standoff. For the lift to actually come down, you need to kill X amount of blights, but what's interesting here isn't the fact that you can use fire to kill some of them. I think this environmental hazard is pretty cool. No, it's the fact that this is the first and only time you're going to encounter these guys. These big blights with shields. I don't know why this is the only time you see them. Maybe the dev kind of forgot towards the end to maybe add a new enemy in, or they didn't really know where else to put them. But either way, this is quite a claustrophobic situation, and compared to the last standoff, it's actually quite difficult. So much so that I had to put together a little strategy by using the black hole launcher every now and then until I had to recharge it, and then switch to the grenade launcher, which was a bit of a risk. But it worked, and I felt quite satisfied getting past this. Now, progressing forwards, you'll encounter a few more soldiers in a dark room, before finally making it to the helicopter pad. And at the helicopter pad, Maximus is there waiting for you. Fighting him here compared to fighting him at the docks is less stressful for two reasons. One is that you can hide behind the helicopter pad, and two is that Natalia is up there helping you out. To be honest, based on the fact that I was trying to blow her up here, you can really see that this boss fight in particular, at this point, really isn't that difficult. But after you defeat Maximus, you have one choice left.
How you doing? You alright? Oh no! Oh no! The one time I could kill her, unable to pilot the helicopter, you are trapped.
I love the fact that this is the only time you can kill her and she just turns to jelly. It's also kind of funny to think that this is an alternative ending where you've literally just killed the only pilot on the entire island. But when you do get into the helicopter, it's just you and her escaping from this place. Everybody else is gone. Now, if you remember, there is a DLC, the Spy DLC, which is basically another game mode. It's more free additional content by this point, and I appreciate the fact that they put this in. The content itself takes you through the perspective of how Natalia managed to get into the facility in the first place. It is kind of weird that Natalia looks very different here. I guess they had to use a different character model. Not too sure. But it all starts after being dropped off by a helicopter on a dark and dismal island. An island so dark and dismal that YouTube's compression is going to struggle here. Because for some reason, walking into shadows darkens your entire screen, and if the glare from the core game wasn't rough enough when using a torch, it's even worse here. Anyway, technical issues to the side, this was a pretty quick experience. But to be fair, one that had some notable moments. The whole idea is that you can explore this island, and you can do so using this little train that likes to make a creepy sound every time it stops. There's a lot more free roam here, a lot more freedom just to explore, and as you'll soon see, there are some places that are well worth exploring. The whole point, of course, is to make it into the research facility, but at some point you'll encounter a large gate that you need to open. And to open this gate, you need to go to 3 different locations, each one having their own set of challenges that aren't that challenging. But if you did need a challenge, this is where things get interesting. Because not only are there raptors charging you with that incredible sniffing sound effect, or soldiers that you can assassinate, on this island there is also El Blanco, a Spinosaurus that freaks me out. This guy is a genuine SCP threat. His white glowing eyes and silhouette was done very well here. Your first encounter with him will be soon after you obtain the train, a train that will have a note next to it warning you about El Blanco in the first place. And while going down the tracks, you'll be stopped by a block. One that needs to be blown up, and you'll see some blue lights leading into the woods. The dark woods that you know has something in there that you don't want to see. The fact that I know that there's something out here because of reading that note made this a chilling experience on my first go, but still made it terrifying on my second, which really goes to show how effective this horror element was. Anyway, you'll find some C4 here, and after picking it up, you're going to want to run back, quickly blow up that block, and get the train moving. Very intense situation, to say the least. Now, shortly after this, you'll be blocked yet again, but this time by a laser. And to turn the laser off, you're going to need to go into the woods to find the generator. It's the same kind of deal here, still just as scary, but because you've already had an encounter with him, you'll be a lot more on edge. Now, you may notice that he has a health bar, and yes, you can defeat him. To unlock the glowing El Blanco achievement, of which only 1.5% of people have. Or should I say 1.6, because as of making this video, somebody else, I think, has defeated El Blanco, so congrats for doing that. But to do this requires a bit more setup, because only explosives or higher power weapons seem to do any damage. So first off, there's a campfire you'll find along the tracks with a 44 Magnum, as well as a treasure map. Following this map will first take you to an abandoned shack that has some gear inside, as well as another note basically telling you that you need to find some diving equipment to dive for the treasure. Now, the treasure itself is really important. But it's the second place you go to, this oil rig, I think, that not only has a save point, thankfully, but also the very overpowered grenade launcher. The only issue here is that to kill El Blanco, you need enough ammo. And that's where the treasure comes in handy, because there are vending machines dotted around the island. Now, on this rig, you can find the diving equipment by going all the way up to the top. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think you really need the diving equipment here, at least not for the most part, because to get to the treasure, you're expected to swim. However, you may notice that I'm walking on water, and this is because, I kid you not, I just jumped in, swam to the surface, and kept on running. That was it. You don't need to swim in this game, you can just walk across water. What's kind of funny about this is that below you can see the anglerfish just chilling there, being like, ha, I can't wait to get somebody today. Yeah, it's not going to happen. When you finally make it to the treasure, you'll dive down and collect it. And there you go. You got a whole bunch of money. But now you need to spend that money on some ammunition. And to do so, you'll need to go to the first enemy camp where one of the switches to open the gate is. What you're seeing right now is a pack of raptors jumping a whole squad of soldiers. It reminds you that you're in a war, a dispute of territory, and having some NPC conflict is a great way of showing that. Once you clear out all the raptors, you can now safely use the vending machine. And once you get your fill of ammo, you can now confidently challenge El Blanco and win that glorious achievement. The fight itself, the grand finale fight, it was reliably quite weak. I just spammed the grenade launcher, that was it. And he doesn't really look like an albino Spinosaurus. It says that he was, but it just looks like the same one. Maybe I'm just reading the script right now because I'm thinking with memory. Maybe I'm wrong, but the rest of the DLC can be wrapped up pretty quick because once you flip all 3 switches, there's not really too much to talk about with the other locations. You can take the train all the way around to a place with another vending machine of which you can kind of walk over. There's a part where you can just sort of walk in the air. But this area is meant to be the sort of sniper stealth section where you take out a few guys, jump over some containers, and hey, look at that, that's the entrance to the facility. That's the end of the content. I wasn't trying to be that brief with it, but that's pretty much how brief it felt, and looking back, that's about as brief as it was. But I did enjoy this. I think it was pretty cool just to throw this in as additional content that, in my opinion, adds to the overall value of the game. Let's be honest here, the bar to entry when it comes to game dev has lowered significantly. I mean, back when everyone was trying out Unity, the market became quite an interesting place for better or worse. And with Unreal Engine, something that I'm actively learning, there are many low budget first time projects out there. Foglight by this dev was one of those. And I know I didn't really share much of it, but when playing it, I could already see that the developer had the intent to make something fun. Fossil Fuel 1 was clearly a mixed bag of direction. It felt like a dinosaur horror for the first part, but then turned into something else halfway through. But after playing Krampus Kills with all the funny elves as well as the extra content and even multiple choice paths, it became more of an inspiration to me that this was somebody using the store as a means to achieve their goals rather than a cheap cop-out, to stitch pre-made levels together with no sign of adaptation. Nightgate was small in scope, but just like every other game, each area or challenge felt different. When I think back to it, it felt like there was more than there actually was, but it unironically left me with more memories than some AAA games. And now after playing Fossil Fuel 2, I can see that it stands with a stronger vision, as a better dinosaur horror experience no matter how goofy it was at times. I will be honest and say that I did feel ripped off with the first game, but man did they pick things up in the second. This portfolio isn't perfect, but it shows growth. Someone trying to make fun games, and I'm happy to have stumbled across it. So for that, in a nutshell, I'm going to give the Fossil Fuel series a Robo-Rex out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot having you here for what is quite literally the longest video I've ever made on any channel. Of course, I'd love to say a massive thank you to all of my supporters who allow me to buy expensive orbs of which I ponder. And finally, a massive shout out to all of my based wizards. Gibbles by the dozen, the Cuddly Bob, Negadan, the one with severed toes, Abby, the Meatly, Durham Trollfist, Matt MC, Spooky, King Delirious, Bob the Bronto, Scotched Eggs, Big Ram, Grimber, LetterOpener.mp3, Julie, Ambassador Ass, Roland Deshane, and I Don't Fit Through Doorways. And I'll see you guys in the next one where, I don't know, there may be a bit of a surprise, there may not be, we don't know yet.